My fork hovers halfway to my mouth, laden with sweet potato casserole as my father's words slice through the muted clatter of Thanksgiving dinner. You're nothing but a leech. It's time for you to leave this house. The sweet potato suddenly looks foreign, unappetizing. Around me, the dining room falls into a silence so complete, I can hear the antique clock ticking from the living room. The same clock I paid to repair last month. I look up searching for anything in my mother's face. But Denise stares intently at her plate, rearranging green beans she hasn't touched. Across from me, my 17-year-old sister Tessa's eyes have gone wide, fixed on her half-empty glass of water. What makes this betrayal so sharp is the timing. I spent the entire morning in the kitchen basting the turkey, whipping potatoes, and baking 3 different pies while they watched football. Just 20 minutes ago, I shared news about my promotion at work. Now, as steam rises from the food I prepared, my father declares me unwelcome. The irony doesn't escape me. My name is on the electric bill that keeps these lights glowing, the water bill that filled the glasses on this table, the grocery receipt for every morsel of this meal, and the insurance statement that covered my mother's doctor appointment last week. Yet somehow I'm the burden. 3 months ago, when Mom lost her job at the accounting firm, I stepped in without hesitation. The bills piled up faster than excuses, and Frank's part-time work at the hardware store barely covered the mortgage. I started paying for everything else: utilities, groceries, car insurance, even Mom's medical expenses. Each month, as more accounts transferred to my name, Dad grew more distant, more resentful. His signature, once required for everything in this household, became increasingly irrelevant, his authority diminishing. 2 weeks ago, I overheard him talking to Mr. Simmons next door, his voice carrying through the open kitchen window. "It's not right," he complained, leaning against the fence. "A man losing control of his own household. She acts like she owns the place now." I didn't realize he meant me until I heard him say my name. Frank stares at me now, his jaw clenched tight, waiting for tears or protests. When I simply continue eating, his knuckles whiten around his fork. The sweet potato tastes like nothing in my mouth, but I chew methodically, swallow, and take another bite. "Did you hear what I said?" His voice rises thick with irritation. "You need to be out by the weekend." My hands tremble slightly, but not from fear, from something deeper, something shifting inside me. I set down my fork, place my napkin beside my plate, and meet his gaze. I understand perfectly. I understand perfectly. These 3 words hang in the air, not tearful or angry, but calm, almost thoughtful. Frank blinks, clearly thrown by my composure. The silence stretches until Mom finally speaks, but not to defend me. "Blair," she says, voice hushed and hurried. "You'll still pay the medical insurance this month, right? I have that appointment on Tuesday." And there it is. The full picture comes into perfect, painful focus. Not family, just a financial resource. Not daughter, just a signature on the bottom of checks. I stand and collect my plate along with Tessa's empty glass. "Of course, Mom." I answer, my voice steady, despite the hollow feeling spreading through my chest. "I'll take care of it before I go." As I move toward the kitchen, my mind catalogs everything in this house that bears my name. The internet service I upgraded when Tessa needed it for school. The refrigerator I replaced when the old one died in July. The utility accounts transferred to me when the warnings of disconnection arrived. I rinse my plate at the sink, methodically scraping uneaten food into the garbage disposal. Through the kitchen window, I can see my car in the driveway, the only thing I own outright that isn't tied to this house. At least I'll have that when I leave. Behind me, I hear Tessa's chair scrape against the floor as she brings her plate to the kitchen. When she places it beside the sink, she doesn't meet my eyes, but her fingertips brush against my wrist for the briefest moment. It's the closest thing to support I've felt in months. The digital clock on my nightstand blinks 1:18 a.m. as I fold another sweater into my suitcase. Sleep feels impossible with the weight of Frank's words still ringing in my ears. I've been packing methodically for hours, my movements automatic while my mind races. I reach for the stack of financial documents I keep in my desk drawer. Insurance statements, utility bills, grocery, receipts planning to sort what I need to take. But underneath them, I spot a bank statement with Frank's name. Strange. I haven't seen paper statements for months. Everything switched to electronic after Mom lost her job. I pull it out, then another and another. A small stack of statements spanning the last 3 months, all for an account I've never seen before. An account with a balance that grows each month while I've been draining my savings to keep the lights on. My hands shake as I drop onto the edge of my bed. The statements blur before my eyes until I blink hard, forcing myself to focus on the numbers. $4,000 in July, $5,000 in August, nearly $7,000 now. Flipping through the rest of the documents, I find a boat dealer's brochure with Frank's handwritten notes in the margins. Down payment, $5,500 circled in blue ink. Scheduled delivery after Thanksgiving underlined twice. A fishing boat while I've been paying for Mom's doctor visits and the internet Tessa needs for school. There's more. A notepad with dates jotted down. November utility due dates. My name with question marks. After bills paid, written and underlined. They've been planning this for weeks, waiting until I covered November's expenses before kicking me out. A soft knock interrupts my thoughts. The door opens just enough for Tessa to slip through her eyes wide as she takes in the packed boxes and open suitcases. "You're really leaving?" she asks, hovering by the door like she's preparing a quick escape. I sit surrounded by the physical evidence of my family's betrayal, while Tessa stands with one hand still on the doorknob. The power imbalance isn't lost on me. Her freedom to walk away. My forced departure. Dad didn't give me much choice. I answer, tucking the bank statements into my purse. Tessa chews her bottom lip. Mom said they need your room for storage now that Dad's buying that boat. The casual confirmation hits like a physical blow. Boat, the fishing boat. He put a deposit on last month. Tessa's voice drops to nearly a whisper. I heard them planning all this weeks ago. How they'd wait until after you paid the bills for November. You knew the betrayal expands, growing tendrils that reach even to Tessa. Her eyes fill with tears. I was scared to tell you, Dad said. Anyone who warned you would be next. I want to be angry with her, but the fear in her face is too real. She's still a child navigating the same manipulative household I'm escaping. There's more, she continues, glancing nervously at the hallway. Those medical appointments Mom's been having, the ones you've been paying for with your insurance. What about them? Last week she came home with her lips all puffy. She told Dad the doctor said she couldn't drink through a straw for 2 days. Tessa mimics our mother's distinctive eye roll. It wasn't a checkup, Blair. It was fillers. The room seems to tilt slightly. I've been eating ramen noodles 3 times a week to stretch my budget while my mother gets cosmetic procedures on my insurance. I pull out my bank app showing Tessa my account balance, $76,342. 3 months ago, I had over $9,000 saved. This is what's left of my savings after covering everything here. I tell her, if I'd stayed even 1 more month, I'd have nothing left. The severity of my situation crystallizes as I say it aloud. I've been on the brink of financial ruin, pouring everything into a family that sees me as nothing more than an ATM. Dad said, if you try to take any furniture, he'll report you for theft. Tessa says, even the stuff you bought. Of course he did. I glance around at the desk I purchased when I started working from home during the pandemic. The bookshelf I assembled myself, the bedding I bought with my first paycheck. He also called the bank today about getting your name off the utility accounts. The time pressure hits me. I need to secure housing, protect what remains of my finances, and untangle myself from the family accounts before they can cause more damage. I reach under my bed and pull out a shoebox. Inside are receipts for everything I've purchased for the house, organized, dated with my credit card statements attached. The desk, the new refrigerator. Tessa's laptop. The living room carpet. Even utility bills with my name clearly listed as the account holder. A small victory in this sea of betrayal. Proof that I'm not crazy that I've been carrying this household while they plotted behind my back. Tessa watches me sort through the receipts, her expression unreadable. Blair, she asks finally. Yes. What would you do in my place if you had to choose between standing up for what's right and keeping peace in the only home you have? As I sorted through these receipts in the middle of the night, I faced a difficult choice. Should I confront my parents with evidence of their manipulation, or simply leave and let them discover the consequences on their own? Standing up for myself might bring closure, but a quiet exit would avoid a painful confrontation. What would you do when the people who should love you unconditionally have proven they only value what you provide? I look at my sister caught in the same toxic environment I'm escaping and realize I don't have an easy answer for either of us. 3 days later, while I am at lunch break at my part-time job, my Aunt Phyllis's voice crackles through the phone, each word landing like a slap. Honestly, Blair, I never thought you'd abandon your parents when they needed you most. I grip the phone tighter, watching my knuckles turn white. 3 days since Thanksgiving, and Frank has already constructed his version of events for the family to consume. Did Dad mention he kicked me out? I ask, keeping my voice level. He said, "You left them high and dry after a little disagreement." She says, her tone heavy with judgment. "They're organizing a family meeting at my house this weekend to discuss your behavior." Of course they are. A public forum where they control the narrative. I'm sure they are, I say and end the call before she can respond. After the shift, I came to my friend's home. I sink onto the edge of Drew's pull-out couch, now my temporary bed. My entire life sits in 4 hastily packed boxes and 2 suitcases stacked against the wall. Everything I couldn't fit waits in my car downstairs. 25 years reduced to what I could grab in 2 frantic hours while my parents were at church on Sunday. My phone buzzes again. Another text from a cousin who's heard I've broken Mom's heart. I don't open it. The constant notifications have created a new anxiety. Each alert sends my heart racing, wondering which relative will attack next. When Drew returns from her shift at the hospital, she finds me cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by paperwork. Operation Financial Freedom going well? She asks, dropping her bag by the door. Almost done. I tap my pen against a notebook filled with account numbers. I've canceled the automatic payments for their utilities, removed myself from their cell phone plan, and called to take my name off their internet service. What I don't say is how the customer service representative laughed when I explained that yes, I was voluntarily removing myself from financial responsibility for my parents' bills. Good, Drew says, settling beside me. Your parents can figure out their own mess. The weight of starting over presses against my chest. My savings account shows a balance that would make most financial advisors as yes. 3 months of covering my family's expenses has left me with barely enough for a security deposit on my own place, let alone first and last month's rent. You sure your roommate doesn't mind me crashing here, I ask. Max. He's thrilled to have the front door swings open, and Max bursts in with his enormous golden retriever bounding ahead of him. Blair. Max announces, "You have to meet the world's worst therapist, but he works for treats." He tosses a tennis ball across the apartment and Baxter launches after it, all flailing paws and wagging tail. The dog returns, dropping the slobbery ball in my lap with expectant eyes. "He thinks you need this more than he does," Max says, his expression serious despite the ridiculousness of the moment. Sometimes the best therapy has 4 legs and terrible breath. When Baxter nudges my hand with his wet nose, I find myself laughing for the first time in days. The sound surprises me, almost foreign to my ears. 5 days after my escape, I sit at Drew's kitchen table laptop, open to job listings that might offer better pay. My current position covers my basic needs, but not the kind of emergency fund I'll need to truly rebuild. My phone lights up with my mother's name. I consider letting it go to voicemail, but something tells me to answer, "What have you done?" Denise's voice comes through sharp and panicked. "The power's out, the internet's down, and my insurance was declined at my appointment." I take a slow breath, feeling strangely calm. I stopped paying for things that weren't my responsibility. But you can't just leave us like this. We're your family. The desperation in her voice might have moved me once, but now I hear the manipulation beneath it. Family doesn't call family a leech at Thanksgiving dinner. I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Your father didn't mean it. Her tone shifts to something softer, placating. You know how he gets. I do know. That's the problem. I end the call and set my phone down carefully as if it might burn me. Later that evening, Drew leans over my shoulder as I create new passwords for my email and banking accounts. I notice some suspicious login attempts on your accounts, she says, pointing to the security alerts. We should set up fraud alerts just to be safe. The contrast isn't lost on me, Drew asks before borrowing my charging cable, while my family felt entitled to everything I owned. Even now, Drew stands a respectful distance away, waiting for my response instead of grabbing the laptop to do it herself. Good idea, I say. Thanks. That night, I find myself scrolling through apartment listings within my budget. Small studios, most of them, but they represent something. I've never fully had a space that's completely mine where no one can tell me I don't belong. I don't ask anyone's opinion about the neighborhoods or worry whether the kitchens are big enough for family gatherings. The decisions are mine alone. The next morning, I head to a local credit union and open a new account under just my name. I transfer every penny from my old account, the one my parents know about. My phone pings with a text from Tessa. Mom looking for your banking info. Says she needs to check something. Don't trust her. I've barely finished reading when my phone explodes with notifications. 6 missed calls from home in the last hour. Simultaneously, an email appears. Fraud alert. Password reset attempt on your banking app. I stare at the screen, anger rising like a tide. They're not just trying to guilt me into coming back. They're trying to take what little I have left. A day later, the bank representative's voice carries a note of concern that feels strangely validating. Miss Mitchell, we've blocked 3 separate password reset attempts from your parents' home address in the last 24 hours. I grip my phone tighter, pacing the small confines of Drew's spare bedroom that has become my temporary sanctuary. And you're certain they can't access anything positive. We've flagged your account for enhanced security measures. Any changes will require in-person verification with photo ID. My chest loosens slightly as I thank her and end the call, adding her name to my growing documentation notebook. Methodical calls have yielded similar results. Credit cards, secured utilities formally removed from my name, and medical insurance accounts protected with additional verification steps. The electric company representative had sounded almost impressed. Smart move contacting us. Your mother called yesterday trying to reinstate service in your name without authorization. Each confirmation acts like a brick in the wall I'm building between my former life and whatever comes next. Not a wall of anger, though, that simmers beneath the surface, but of protection, solid, necessary, and entirely of my own design. Drew appears in the doorway with a steaming mug. Tea with honey. Thought you could use it after all those calls. I accept it gratefully, wrapping my hands around the warmth. Last one done. Nobody can access or change anything without my direct approval now. Drew nods approvingly. How does it feel? Before I can answer, a thunderous pounding rattles the apartment door. The tea sloshes over my fingers as Drew and I exchange startled glances. Blair! My father's voice booms through the wood. Open this door right now. Drew motions for me to stay put, but I'm already moving. This confrontation has been inevitable since the moment I walked out. The pounding intensifies as I approach, each impact like a physical blow. Through the peephole, I see my father's face flushed and contorted with rage. I've seen directed at bill collectors, telemarketers, and now me. I know you're in there. Another series of blows makes the door frame shudder. You think you can just abandon your family and destroy our lives? A door opens across the hall, and Mrs. Perkins, a retiree who baked cookies for Drew when he first moved in, peers out cautiously. Her eyes widen at the sight of Frank pounding and shouting. Young man, she calls, her voice quavering but determined. I've already called building security. Frank whirls toward her. Mind your own business, lady. This is between me and my daughter. Your behavior is my business when it disturbs the peace, she retorts, pulling her robe tighter around herself. Frank turns back to the door, his voice dropping to something more dangerous. Blair, if you don't open this door right now, I'll... The threat transforms into action as he steps back and kicks the door hard, enough to splinter the wood around the lock. Mrs. Perkins gasps and retreats inside her apartment. My hands tremble as I dial 911, speaking quietly to the dispatcher, while Frank continues his assault on the door. Through the damaged wood, I hear the elevator ding, followed by heavy footsteps. Sir, step away from the door immediately. The authoritative voice of the building security guard cuts through Frank's shouts. This is my daughter's place. I have every right. You have no right to damage property or disturb residents. Police have been called. Frank's response is lost in the sound of sirens approaching outside. Minutes later, I watch through the peephole as 2 officers escort my father down the hallway. His wrists cuffed behind his back while he continues to shout that I am the one destroying our family. When the police officer returns to take my statement, I provide it calmly describing the financial manipulation, the unauthorized access attempts, and today's outburst with the same detached precision I've used in my documentation notebook. The officer Rodriguez, according to his nameplate, nods thoughtfully as he takes notes. Would you like to press charges for the attempted break-in? The question hangs in the air as Drew returns from speaking with building management about the damaged door. Yes, I say the word small but firm, and I'd like to file for a restraining order. Later, as I watch the police car drive away with my father in the back seat, I wonder, was filing an official report too harsh a response to years of manipulation, or was it the necessary step to protect myself from further harm? Drew squeezes my shoulder gently. Max is bringing home some security cameras for the entrance. We'll set them up tonight. I nod, grateful for the practical support that asks nothing in return. My phone buzzes with a text from Tessa. Mom took your laptop and camera from your room. Said they're collateral for what you owe them. The message lands like a stone in my stomach. More theft to add to the emotional robbery they've committed for years. I thumb a quick response. Do you know where she took them? Tessa's reply comes almost instantly. Heard her on the phone with Parkway Pawn. Said she got $300 for both. Cated. I showed Drew the message, anger rising fresh and hot in my throat. Those were worth over $2,000. Do you have the receipt's serial numbers? I nod, thinking of the meticulous documentation I've maintained for tax purposes. Everything. An hour later, Officer Williams takes my theft report with appropriate seriousness, examining my purchase receipts and noting the serial numbers. Pawning someone else's property is a criminal offense. She explains, her tone professional but kind. Will contact the shop and recover your items. The system that felt so often stacked against me now works in my service. A strange reversal that leaves me lightheaded with possibility. That evening, my phone begins lighting up with calls from relatives I haven't spoken to in months. Aunt Sarah's message is the first I listen to. Blair, honey, I heard about Frank's arrest. I'm so sorry. We had no idea things were so bad. The neighbors who witnessed Frank's outburst have apparently shared their observations, shifting the public narrative my parents tried to control. The story is spreading. Cracks forming in the facade my parents constructed. As I help Max mount the security camera above Drew's door, another text from my mother arrives. The casual entitlement of her words makes my jaw clench. I had to pawn your camera and laptop to cover the electric bill you left us with. Parkway Pawn on 4th Street. You owe me $300 plus interest. Enk. I pass the phone to Drew, who reads it and shakes her head in disbelief. The delusion is almost impressive, she mutters, handing it back. I save the message as evidence. My anger not at her audacity, but at how long I allowed myself to believe I deserved such treatment. The revelation settles into determination as I finish securing the camera that will capture any future attempts to invade the new boundaries I've built. This time, I'm the one watching. My phone vibrates against the coffee table, my mother's name flashing on the screen. I've been waiting for this call. 3 days since I filed the police report about my stolen laptop and camera, and finally they're ready to negotiate. Blair. Mom's voice trembles slightly. I've been thinking about everything and I want to propose a compromise. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. In the background, I hear the television playing the same game show that used to fill our living room every weekday at this hour. If you drop that ridiculous theft report, you can come back home. She pauses, clears her throat. We'll let you continue living here, of course. Your room is still exactly as you left it. The rehearsed quality of her words is unmistakable. I picture Dad hovering nearby, nodding approval at her performance. And Blair, she continues, when I don't respond, I think we should discuss your state of mind lately. Frank and I are concerned that you might be having some kind of breakdown. That's something our friends and family would understand better than what you're claiming happened. The threat lands with perfect clarity. Drop the charges, or be labeled unstable. I take a slow breath. I have copies of every bill I've paid for the last 6 months. I say, my voice steady. I have bank statements showing transfers to your account. I have text messages asking me to pay for your cosmetic procedures that you claimed were medical necessities. I pause. Would you like me to present all of that as evidence? The silence on the other end tells me everything I need to know. The next morning, Officer Williams follows my car to my parents' house. Her police cruiser parked in the driveway sends a clear message to the neighbors who've been fed my father's lies. As we walk to the front door, I notice curtains twitching in windows across the street. Mom answers the door, her smile faltering when she sees the officer. Mrs. Mitchell, Officer Williams, says I'm here to accompany Blair, while she retrieves her remaining belongings. Inside the house feels smaller than I remember. Mom hovers nearby as I head straight for my bedroom. Officer Williams following close behind. I've prepared copies of all my financial contributions. I tell the officer, handing her a folder, I've been compiling utilities, groceries, medical bills, the new refrigerator I purchased, in July, all with receipts. Officer Williams flips through the pages, her eyebrows rising. You paid for all of this while living here? Yes. For the past 6 months since my mother lost her job. Mom appears in the doorway, arms crossed. That furniture belongs to the family. Blair, you can't just take everything. I pull a stack of receipts from my bag and hold them up. I have receipts for everything I'm taking. Would you like to see them? Officer Williams studies my mother's face, then glances back at the financial records. The surprise in her eyes is unmistakable. Mrs. Mitchell, these documents show your daughter has been supporting this household almost entirely on her own. Mom's mouth opens, then closes. She retreats down the hallway without another word. I work methodically, packing books, clothes, and the remaining items that are unquestionably mine. Through my bedroom window, I can see the neighbors watching from their porches, pretending to water plants or check mail. Let them see. Let them know the truth. When the last box is loaded into my car, I turn to lock the front door one final time. The sound of an engine draws my attention to the street. My car, my other car that I'd left parked at Drew's apartment, pulls into the driveway. My father behind the wheel. My stomach drops. The spare key. I'd forgotten about the spare key I'd given them for emergencies. Dad steps out, jingling my keys in his hand. His expression is triumphant as he walks toward me. We need to discuss what you owe us before you take this too, he says, gesturing toward the vehicle I'm about to drive away in. I set down the box I'm holding and reach into my purse, pulling out a folder of documents I've been carrying for precisely this moment. This is the title to that car, I say, holding up the paper. And this is the registration, both in my name. Officer Williams steps forward. Sir, that vehicle is registered to Blair. You need to hand over the keys immediately. The color drains from Dad's face as he looks from the documents to the officer. His hand tightens around the keys. I paid for her college. Her braces. 18 years of the keys, Mr. Mitchell. Officer Williams extends her hand. Slowly, Dad's fingers uncurl. The keys drop into the officer's palm with a soft jingle. As she passes them to me, I see something I've never witnessed before. For my father's complete deflation, the man who has towered over our family for decades suddenly looks small, diminished. Come near me or my property again. I say, my voice clear and calm, and I'll file for a restraining order. I slide into my car, adjust the mirror, and turn the key. As I pull away from the curb, I see the neighbors still watching, witnesses to the final act of our family drama. Mrs. Henderson from next door doesn't even pretend to be checking her mailbox anymore. She stands on her lawn, phone in hand, no doubt already spreading the news. In my rear-view mirror, Tessa appears in the doorway. She's caught between worlds, one foot in the house where our parents remain. One hand raised in a tentative wave to me. Her face reflects both sorrow and something else, admiration, perhaps the strength she hasn't yet found for herself. I'm 3 blocks away when my phone buzzes with a text. Tessa. They're blaming me now. What do I do? The light ahead turns red. I press the brake and stare at the screen, watching those 3 dots appear as she types something else, then disappear. My sister. The one innocent party in all of this, now stands where I once did, bearing the weight of our parents' manipulation. The light changes to green, but I remain still, cars honking behind me as I consider what comes next. Sunlight streams through gauzy curtains. I chose myself painting warm patterns across the hardwood floors of my apartment. 3 months have passed since I drove away from my parents' house with Officer Williams' business card tucked in my wallet. The difference between then and now still catches me by surprise sometimes. I run my fingers along the edge of my desk where neatly organized bills fan out like a deck of cards. Electricity, water, internet, renters, insurance, all in my name, all comfortably within my budget. No one else's financial emergencies hiding between the envelopes. My bank statement sits open beside them, the numbers growing modestly but steadily each month. The emergency fund I depleted supporting my family is slowly rebuilding itself. 6 months of security. That's my goal. I've already reached 2. The quiet contentment of making decisions without defending them feels like a luxury I'm still getting used to. Last weekend I painted an accent wall deep teal without asking anyone's permission or hearing how I'd regret the color choice. The freedom to make even small choices feels enormous. A year later, my apartment buzzes with the gentle hum of conversation and laughter. I slide a golden brown turkey onto my dining table, smaller than last year's, but cooked to perfection. The irony of hosting Thanksgiving isn't lost on me. Can I help with anything? Tessa asks, hovering uncertainly by the kitchen counter. My sister looks different now, taller somehow, though she hasn't grown an inch. Maybe it's the confidence she's developing away from our parents' shadow. Your company is contribution enough, I tell her, the words flowing naturally. How different from the tally of expenses I once kept in my head, measuring my worth by what I provided. I move around my space with an ease that would have seemed impossible last November. The dishes don't match perfectly. The table is secondhand, but everything here is genuinely mine, chosen with care rather than acquired through obligation. Drew raises her glass as we settle around the table to found family and boundaries worth keeping. Max and Tessa lift their glasses in response. My sister has flourished since moving into her college dorm 3 months ago. I helped her navigate financial aid forms and housing applications. Knowledge from my own journey becoming stepping stones for hers. Later, as Tessa and I sort through scholarship applications at my kitchen counter, she mentions the latest family update. They lost the house last month, she says quietly. Dad's still blaming the bank, the economy, everyone but himself. They're staying with Uncle Rick, but he's already dropping hints about them finding their own place. I nod, glancing at the stack of unopened letters on my bookshelf. 5 envelopes, all from my parents, all unread. Setting boundaries doesn't mean I don't sometimes wonder what they say. They still blame you for everything. Tessa continues her pen tapping against the scholarship form. But honestly, they're just facing what would have happened anyway. Your money was just postponing the inevitable. I help her highlight a key section on the housing assistance application, thinking about choices and consequences. As I helped Tessa build her independent life, I sometimes wondered if I should respond to my parents' attempts to reconnect. Is maintaining complete separation the healthiest choice when family has betrayed you so deeply? Or is there value in allowing limited contact on your own terms? What would you do when those who should have protected you want back into your life after you finally found peace without story 2? I stand frozen in the hallway, one hand pressed against the wall for support, the other clutching my wedding magazine so tightly the pages crinkle. The dining room door is cracked open just enough for their voices to slip through. I wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. My marketing meeting ended early and I thought I'd surprise them. Instead, they surprise me. She'll pay for everything just like she did for my wedding. Violet's distinctive laugh too loud. 2 sharp cuts through the air. That's what little sisters are for. My parents chuckle in agreement, the sound of their betrayal making my stomach clench. We've already told everyone about the combined celebration, Mom, says, the pride evident in her voice. Dad clears his throat. Your anniversary deserves as much attention as her wedding. 5 years is a milestone. My wedding magazine slips from my fingers, landing silently on the carpeted floor. I don't move to pick it up. I can't move at all. The blood rushes to my face as my breathing turns shallow. White-knuckled. I grip my handbag to keep my hand from trembling. 5 years of therapy teaching me to recognize my worth evaporates in an instant. I'm 10 years old again, watching Violet open my birthday presents while everyone applauds her for being such a good sharer. I back away from the door, careful not to make a sound. My legs carry me outside to my car, where I sink into the driver's seat and stare at nothing. The keys dangle from my fingers, but I don't put them in the ignition. Not yet. First, I need to call Robert. My finger hovers over his name in my contacts. 3 deep breaths. Later, I press call. Hey, beautiful. He answers on the second ring. How was the meeting? They're trying to do it again, Rob. My voice comes out steadier than I expect. But this time, I won't let them. 5 years ago, Violet announced her engagement to Thomas. 2 weeks later, Dad called me into his study, explaining that Thomas had lost his job and they needed help with wedding expenses. Just temporary, he promised. Family comes first, Naomi. He set his hand heavy on my shoulder. Your sister needs this. Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed. If you really loved your sister, I handed over my entire savings account, $15,000, my education fund, my future. It's just a semester, Mom said when I had to drop out of college. You can always go back. 3 semesters later, I was still working 2 jobs, watching my dreams collect dust, while Violet danced at her reception in a dress that cost more than my car. That night, I made myself my Promise While Sisters by Rosemary Clooney played over the speakers. Never again. 2 weeks later, Mom invites us for dinner. Just a casual family gathering, she says. But I know better. Her voice has that rehearsed quality it gets when she's planning something. The table is set with the good china, never a good sign. Violet and Thomas arrive 15 minutes late as usual. Before we eat, Mom announces once we're all seated, we have the most brilliant idea. I feel Robert's hand find mine under the table. As Mom launches into a speech about beautiful symbolism and shared celebrations, we thought, she continues beaming, that we could combine Naomi's wedding with Violet and Thomas's 5th anniversary celebration. Violet pulls out a folder color-coded and tabbed and places it on the table. I've already made a list. Separate cake, of course. Special dance. And I think the colors should match my original wedding for continuity. Robert's fingers tighten around mine as I feel all eyes turn to me. They're waiting for my usual immediate agreement. My automatic yes, that's been conditioned into me since childhood. Let me think about it, I say instead. The silence that follows is deafening. Mom's smile freezes. Dad blinks rapidly. Violet's mouth opens slightly, then closes. Think about it. Dad recovers first, patting my shoulder dismissively. Always practical. That's why we know you'll handle the finances. Violet's eyes fill with practice tears. I thought you'd be excited. Mom gives me a look, the one that says, keep the peace. Before passing the potatoes, Naomi will come around. She always does. I smile and nod. The perfect daughter. Robert squeezes my hand under the table, a silent show of support. I'm sure it will be beautiful, I say the words, tasting like ash. But in my mind, a plan is already forming. A single thought burning bright enough to warm the ice, forming around my heart. Never again. Have you ever smiled and nodded while silently planning your escape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That night I said I would sleep over to take some things left and to check what other plans my family is hiding from me. The family computer screen glows in the dim light of Dad's study as I scroll through Mom's email. I shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be doing this. But Robert's words echo in my head. Trust your instincts, Naomi. Something doesn't add up. My breath catches when I see it. An email chain between Mom and Violet with the subject line, Vendor payments, Naomi. I click, heart hammering against my ribs. Don't worry about the deposits, Mom wrote. James and I have assured everyone that Naomi will cover all expenses once contracts are finalized. My fingers tremble on the mouse. I click through more emails, each one another nail in the coffin of my trust. Screenshots of venue options, catering menus, DJ packages, all with notes about how the bride will be handling payment. A notification pings on Mom's tablet, still logged into her Amazon account. I tap it without thinking and freeze. There, in hide color, is a wedding dress, not my dress. A second dress, ordered 3 days ago. The confirmation email shows my credit card number. I need your bathroom. I text Robert, our code for urgent calls. He answers immediately. What happened? They've been planning this for months. My voice sounds hollow even to myself. Violet used my credit card to buy another wedding dress, one that matches her vision. 4. That's credit card fraud. Robert says, his usually calm voice tight with anger. There's more. I switch to speaker and open the banking app on my phone. Remember those deposits I couldn't account for last month? They weren't deposits. They were withdrawals labeled as deposits for wedding expenses. My parents got a call last week, Robert says. After a pause, someone claiming to be your wedding coordinator said, you wanted a simple ceremony and didn't need their contribution. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. I minimize the email and notice an Excel file on the desktop labeled W plus a budget final. I shouldn't open it, but I do anyway. The spreadsheet appears meticulously organized with color-coded tabs. I click through them, my stomach dropping. Further with each page. Venue $22,000. Catering $15,000. Entertainment $8,000. Flowers $7,000. Photography $6,000. Dresses plural $5,000. At the bottom, a final sum $63,000. With a note in Violet's distinctive purple font, Naomi's responsibility. I lean back in Dad's chair, suddenly dizzy. The family photo on his desk, Mom, Dad, Violet, and me at her wedding, seems to mock me now. I was smiling in that picture, having just signed away my education fund. While searching for more evidence, I find Mom's journal tucked in the desk drawer. I've never invaded her privacy like this before, but I'm past caring. I flip to recent entries. Naomi's always been the responsible one. She wrote just last week. She'll understand this is for family. So the same day, Dad claimed financial hardship. A receipt from Pine Hills Golf Club shows his $5,000 membership renewal. I take screenshots and forward all messages to my chat. Tomorrow I will start dealing with them thoroughly. My phone buzzes in the morning while I'm at office. A text from Jessica, my oldest friend who works at an event planning company. Call me as soon as possible. Violet just contacted us claiming to be handling arrangements for your wedding. I forward her the spreadsheet before calling. Her outrage validates what I already know. This isn't normal family behavior. They're gaslighting you, she says bluntly. This is financial abuse. Later that evening, Robert's sister Emily visits our apartment. Unlike me, she successfully escaped her own controlling family years ago. The problem isn't just Violet, Emily explains as we sit at our kitchen table. Your mother enables everything. Notice the pattern. Violet creates the crisis. Your mother offers the solution that requires your sacrifice. Mrs. Sullivan. My elderly neighbor, who sometimes joins us for coffee, nods in agreement. She came 10 minutes after Emily. I've watched this dynamic for years, dear. Your sister takes. Your mother facilitates. Your father enforces and you accommodate, she says. Not anymore, I say. But my voice wavers. The threats begin the next day. Violet calls about a networking event at her company. Remember how I helped you get that marketing position? Her voice drips with sweetness. Family connections are so important. Speaking of which, have you chosen a venue yet, Dad? Mentions the house down payment they might help with if the wedding goes smoothly. Mom casually references Grandma's heart attack while discussing wedding stress. You know cardiac issues run in our family. She sigh. I've already told the aunts about our combined celebration. They're thrilled. That night, I make my first strategic move. I'll need to be the one to sign the venue contract. I tell them over dinner, my voice steadier than I feel. Their exchange of glances speaks volumes. At my apartment, I cancel the fraudulent dress order and change all my financial passwords. The victory feels hollow when Violet calls immediately. You're being ridiculous, she snaps. You've gained weight anyway. That dress would have looked better on me. I endure the barbs, the manipulative texts, the constant pressure, the price of playing along while I formulate my plan. Later, alone in our bathroom, I finally break. Tears stream down my face as I grip the sink, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Robert knocks gently but knows better than to enter. I stare at my reflection at the woman who's been molded into the perfect sacrificial lamb. I splash cold water on my face, dry my eyes, and straighten my shoulders. This is war, but I'll fight it my way with strategy, not emotion, with boundaries, not bridges. In the mirror, I see someone new emerging, someone with steel in her spine and fire in her eyes. What's the most difficult boundary you've had to set with someone you love? Was it worth it? The next morning, my phone buzzes at 7:43 a.m. I don't recognize the number, but the text contains a photo that makes my stomach lurch. Congratulations on your big announcement. Reads the message from someone named Tara. I can't wait to celebrate both events next month. I tap the image and freeze. It's a screenshot of my mother's Facebook post from last night. Thrilled to announce we're celebrating 2 beautiful milestones in one special day. Naomi's wedding and Violet's 5th anniversary. Details coming soon. 47 comments, 93 likes. Robert rolls over his eyes, still heavy with sleep. Everything okay? I wordlessly hand him my phone. He sits up immediately, fully awake. They didn't even ask us, I whisper. Call your mom, Robert says, his jaw tightening. Now Mom answers on the first ring, her voice suspiciously cheerful. Good morning, sweetheart. Did you see? Take it down? My voice comes out steadier than I feel. What the post? Mom, take it down. We never agreed to this. She laughs like I've told a particularly amusing joke. Oh, Naomi, everyone's so excited. Your father's golfing buddies are already planning to attend. It's too late to change anything now. The familiar weight of obligation settles on my chest. Too late. Always too late to stand up for myself. Well, talk about this later. I manage before hanging up. 3 days later, I'm at Elegant Bridal with Jessica, trying on the simple A-line dress I chose weeks ago. I twist in front of the mirror, admiring how the ivory fabric catches the light. It's perfect, Jessica says, snapping a photo. Classic but not boring. Totally you. The bell above the door jingles. I catch the reflection of Violet sweeping into the boutique. Designer sunglasses perched on her head. Mom trailing behind. Her. Surprise. Mom calls out, clapping her hands. We thought we'd join you. Jessica shoots me a look that says, stick to the plan. I nod almost imperceptibly. How unexpected, I say, turning to face them. Violet circles me like a predator, her manicured finger tapping against her chin. It's a bit plain, isn't it? Nothing like my Vera Wang. She reaches for a glass of complimentary champagne from a nearby table. But I suppose it suits you. Go. The boutique owner smiles tightly. Would you like to see some veils to complete the look? Before I can answer, Violet's arm jerk sending a wave of red liquid across the front of my dress. The champagne glass hits the floor with a crash. Oh no. Violet gasps, hand flying to her mouth in mock horror. I'm so clumsy. Thank goodness you haven't purchased it yet. My fingers curl into fists at my sides as I watch the red stain bloom across the ivory fabric. The boutique owner rushes for club soda, but we all know the dress is ruined. Mom pats my arm. Don't worry, dear. This was clearly meant to be. We'll find something that complements Violet's anniversary dress. 2 hours later, I meet Robert at his office for lunch. My hands still shaking. They destroyed my dress. Rob on purpose. Robert's eyes darken. That's it. No more playing nice. Dad called this morning while I was at work. I say they've scheduled a walkthrough at Rosewood Manor for tomorrow. They expect us to sign the contract right away. Robert takes my hand across the table. Then we go to Plan B. The next afternoon, we stand in Rosewood Manor's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hang from 30-foot ceilings. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook manicured gardens. It's breathtaking and exactly the kind of extravagant venue I never wanted. Perfect for your sister's grand entrance, Dad says, clapping the venue manager on the shoulder, and plenty of room for all 200 guests. 200, I echo. We agreed on 50. Mom waves dismissively. We couldn't possibly cut the list now. Everyone's already been notified. The venue manager, Mr. Phillips, produces a thick contract. If we could just get signatures and the deposit today, we'll be all set for next month's celebration. Dad pulls out his pen with a flourish. I'll sign first, then Naomi can. Actually, I interrupt, surprising everyone, including myself. My fiancé and I agreed that both our signatures are required on any contract. That's non-negotiable. So the silence that follows feels electric. What are you talking about? Mom asks, her smile strained. Robert doesn't need to be bothered with these details. It's our wedding, I say quietly. We make decisions together, Violet snorts. Since when do you make decisions at all? I reach into my bag and pull out a folder. Since I discovered these, I place printouts of unauthorized credit card charges on the table. Charges for items I never approved made with my stored card information. Mom pales. Dad stares at the papers, then at Violet. You told me she agreed to those expenses, he says slowly. Violet's face hardens. She always pays. That's what she does. Something inside me breaks open. Years of silence and accommodation rush out like floodwater. You ruined my college years, I say, my voice surprisingly calm. You're not ruining my wedding day. Mr. Phillips clears his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should give you a moment. No need, I say, reaching for the contract. I'd like to review the terms. Dad tries to intercept. Naomi, be reasonable. I've learned that true family respects boundaries. I meet his gaze steadily. Sign if you want to. I'll cover $6,000 for the deposit. The remaining $57,000 is your responsibility. Violet's face contorts. You can't do this. We've told everyone. You've always been the reliable one, the responsible one. I still am, I say. I'm just being responsible to myself for once. Dad looks from me to the contract, then back again. Something shifts in his expression. Surprise, perhaps even a flicker of respect. He signs his name with less flourish than before. That evening, Jessica calls with news. I found the perfect spot for the real ceremony. Small chapel by the lake available the weekend before. And Robert's parents offered their lake house for the reception, I tell her, feeling a surprising lightness in my chest. How much was the deposit again, Jessica asks. $6,000. That's a lot of money to walk away from. I think about years of giving in, of putting everyone else first. It's my freedom fee, I say. Worth every penny. Later, Robert and I sit cross-legged on our apartment floor, surrounded by plans for our real wedding, the one only our closest friends will attend. "I'm proud of you," Robert says, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I pick up a pair of scissors from the coffee table and hold them up to a strand of my hair. The long, straight style my mother always insisted was most flattering. "What do you think?" I ask. "Time for a change?" Robert grins. "Absolutely." The scissors make a satisfying snip. Dark strands fall to the floor around me. With each cut, I feel lighter. For the first time, I say, watching my reflection change in the window, "I'm not just their daughter or Violet's sister. I'm choosing to be me." After my impromptu haircut, I try on the simple white sundress we ordered online. No train, no beading, no cathedral veil, just clean lines and comfortable fabric. "This feels like me," I whisper, "not their version of me." Later, Jessica arrives with a detailed timeline tucked under her arm. Decoy wedding at Rosewood. Real wedding at the chapel. I've mapped it down to 15-minute increments. Emily, Robert's sister, brings a legal folder. My friend at the firm confirmed it. "Since your parents signed the venue contract, they're legally responsible for the bill, not you." We work into the night creating our escape plan. Every guest, every detail, every contingency accounted for. "I can't believe we're really doing this," I say, feeling the first genuine laugh bubble up inside me in months. Ms. Sullivan stops by with homemade cookies, her eyes crinkling with wisdom. "Sometimes the kindest thing is walking away," she says, squeezing my hand. "I wish I'd had your courage 50 years ago." The night before the wedding, Violet appears at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes narrow at my newly short hair. "The venue called," she says without preamble. "They need final payment confirmation." I smile calmly. Everything's been taken care of. Tomorrow will be unforgettable. Something in my tone makes her pause. She studies my face, searching for the familiar signs of capitulation. Finding none, she leaves with a huff. After she's gone, I pull out a small overnight bag from under the bed and carefully pack the essentials. White sundress, new flats, marriage license. Robert watches from the doorway. "Ready?" he asks. I zip the bag with finality. More than I've ever been. Have you ever had to create an escape plan from a toxic situation? What gave you the strength to follow through? The next morning, a makeup artist dabs powder across my forehead as I check the time. 9:17 a.m. Perfect. I snap a selfie in the bridal robe Jessica borrowed from her cousin's salon, making sure the generic background reveals nothing about our actual location. Sending the first bait, I tell Robert, who's lounging on the lake house sofa in jeans and a t-shirt, coffee mug in hand. No tuxedo yet. We have hours before our real ceremony. I attach the photo to a group text. Getting started. Running a bit behind, but so excited. Then I add 3 bride emojis and a champagne glass. Exactly the kind of over-enthusiastic text they'd expect. Mom responds instantly. Everyone's arriving at the venue. Your father is greeting the Hendersons now. They're all there. I tell Robert, the weight of 5 years lifting from my shoulders. 200 guests and a $63,000 bill. Robert raises his coffee mug to freedom. My phone buzzes with Violet's text. Remember, I need you here by 11:30 for our sister photos, before your ceremony. Wear the pearl earrings I picked. I silence notifications and join my actual friends on the deck overlooking the tranquil lake. Jessica pours mimosas while Sam and Keith string white lights around the birch trees. Robert's parents arrive with wild flowers from their garden and warm hugs that ask for nothing in return. How are you feeling? Robert's mother asks, squeezing my hand like I can finally breathe. At 10:45, I send another staged photo. Hair done, makeup next running about 30 minutes behind schedule. The responses flood in immediately. Mom, people are asking when you'll arrive. What should I tell them? Dad, the minister has another commitment at 3. You need to hurry. Violet, this is so inconsiderate. Naomi, my anniversary celebration is at risk. I switch my phone to do not disturb and slip into my simple lace dress, the one I bought myself, not the beaded monstrosity Violet selected to complement her anniversary gown. "Ready for our real ceremony?" Robert asks, handsome in his navy suit. "More than you know," Em said. At noon, Jessica returns from her reconnaissance mission at the country club, laughing so hard she can barely speak. "You should see them," she gasps. "Your mom keeps announcing minor delays. Your dad is sweating through his suit. And Violet, oh my God, Violet is telling everyone it's actually your fault because you insisted on using her hairstylist instead of hiring two." "How many guests left?" Robert asks. "None yet. They're too fascinated by the train wreck. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash in formal wear." At 12:30, I send one final text. "Having a minor zipper emergency. Start without me. Be there in 20 minutes. Then I turn my phone completely off and take Robert's hands beneath the lakeside arbor. 20 cherished friends surround us as Robert's father begins our ceremony. No one checks their watch or texts during our vows. No one demands to be the center of attention. Across town, according to our plan, the venue manager is presenting my parents with a preliminary bill. The contract they signed, the one they pushed so hard to finalize, makes them solely responsible for payment. The $6,000 deposit I contributed was carefully documented as my only financial obligation. By now, Violet has likely realized that her anniversary celebration has become a $63,000 disaster. The carefully selected champagne tower stands untouched. The 5-tier cake with her anniversary topper on the premium tier remains uncut. The guests whisper behind programs, witnessing the family facade crumble. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Robert's father announces, beaming with genuine joy. As Robert kisses me, cheers erupt from people who actually care about our happiness. Later, during our intimate reception dinner, Jessica's phone lights up with a voice message. She puts it on speaker. "Jessica, this is Eleanor Thompson." Mom's voice sounds strained, her usual composure shattered. "If you know where Naomi is, please tell her this isn't funny anymore. The venue needs the remaining payment tonight. Her father." Her voice breaks. "James had to give them his retirement account information. Please have her call us immediately." In the background, we hear Violet shrieking at someone, likely her husband. "What do you mean? What did I do? This was Mom and Dad's plan too." Jessica turns off the phone and Robert raises his glass. "To my beautiful wife, who taught her family the most valuable lesson they'll ever learn." I clink my glass against his. Freedom was worth every penny of that $6,000 deposit. "What do you think is worse?" I ask our friends. "Losing $63,000 or losing your dignity?" As laughter surrounds us, I already know my answer. The doorbell rings precisely at 10 the morning after our wedding. Robert squeezes my hand as we exchange knowing glances. "Right on schedule." "Ready?" he asks. I nod, straightening the fresh wedding photos we arranged on our coffee table last night. I've been ready for years. When I open the door, Mom stands front and center, eyes red-rimmed and puffy. Dad looms behind her, jaw clenched so tight I can almost hear his teeth grinding. Violet hovers at his shoulder, her face twisted into an expression that can't decide between rage and triumph. "How could you do this to us?" Mom's voice breaks, tears already streaming down her face. "After everything we've done for you," I step aside, gesturing them in without a word. They file past Mom's familiar perfume, the one she only wears to funerals, and confrontations trailing behind her. Dad doesn't bother sitting. "You're legally responsible for this bill. Naomi." "I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now. Tell everyone what kind of person you really are." Violet hisses, jabbing a finger toward me. I already started. "Cousin Emma knows you abandoned your own wedding over some childish grudge." I don't flinch. Instead, I walk to our dining table where a leather portfolio sits waiting. Robert stands beside me, his presence a fortress at my back. I expected this visit. I say, my voice steadier than it's ever been when addressing them. I've been preparing for it for a while. One by one, I remove the contents of the portfolio and arrange them on the table. The movement feels ceremonial, like laying out the pieces of a sacred ritual. In many ways it is. "What's all this?" Dad asks, impatience edging his voice. I press play on my phone. Violet's voice fills the room. "She'll pay for everything just like she did for my wedding. That's what little sisters are for." Followed by my parents. Unmistakable laughter. Their faces pale in perfect unison. Recording conversations as Dad starts perfectly legal in this state, with one-party consent. Robert finishes for him. His law degree finally proving useful against my family. I slide bank statements across the table. Here's proof of the $6,000 deposit I agreed to pay, the only payment I ever committed to. Mom reaches for the papers with trembling hands, but the venue manager said, "I have the email trail right here." I continue laying out printed correspondence where I specifically clarified my limited financial involvement. Note the venue manager's response confirming that the contract holders, you and Dad, are responsible for the balance. Violet snatches one of the papers. "This doesn't prove anything. Maybe this will." I pull out screenshots of unauthorized credit card charges, each with forensic timestamps. "My credit card, Violet, for your second wedding dress. The one you ordered after, spilling wine on mine. You always were so dramatic about money." She scoffs, but her voice wavers. Dad's face has taken on an ashen quality. "Naomi, be reasonable. We can't possibly cover $57,000. I extract the final document, a lawyer's letter, outlining their liability. "The contract is in your names. The venue has your signatures. The remaining $57,000 is your responsibility." Mom collapses onto our couch, mascara creating charcoal rivers down her cheeks. "Why would you do this to your own family?" "I lost $15,000 for Violet's wedding." I say the words no longer sticking in my throat. "I willingly paid $6,000 this time to be free of your manipulation forever. This is revenge." Dad spits desperation, replacing his earlier confidence. "No," I correct him. "This is the natural consequence of your actions." Violet's husband, Thomas, who had been silent by the door, steps forward. "So you did the same thing to your sister 5 years ago?" His question lands like a stone in still water, creating ripples of uncomfortable silence. "That was different." Violet stammers, looking to our parents for support, but something has cracked between them. Mom stares blankly at the coffee table. Dad glares at Violet, and Violet glowers at both of them. "Your retirement fund," Mom whispers to Dad. "We'll have to use your retirement fund." "My retirement fund," his voice rises. "This was your idea in the first place." I walk calmly to the door and open it. "You can leave now. My new family is coming over to celebrate." They gather their things in defeated silence. As they shuffle toward the exit, I can't resist one final truth. Consider the $63,000 your investment in my freedom. Violet pauses at the threshold, turning back with an expression I've never seen before. Something like respect tangled with resentment, and perhaps a flicker of recognition. The door closes with a soft click that echoes with finality. Robert wraps his arms around me as I lean against him, suddenly exhausted and exhilarated all at once. "Are you okay?" he asks into my hair. Before I can answer, my phone chimes with a text. Jessica and the others are on their way over, bringing champagne and takeout from our favorite restaurant. "I'm more than okay," I say, looking at our wedding photos, the real ones taken at the lake house with people who truly love us. For the first time in my life, I'm free. Was I justified in my actions? Or should I have confronted my family directly instead? What would you have done? A year later, the scent of roasting turkey fills our new home as I arrange a centerpiece of crimson and gold chrysanthemums on our dining table. Through the window, November sunlight spills across the hardwood floors. We installed ourselves last month. Robert catches my eye from the kitchen doorway and raises his wine glass in a silent toast. 1 year exactly, he says, his smile reaching his eyes. I nod, my chest warm with contentment rather than the familiar tightness of anxiety. 1 year since we chose ourselves. 1 year since we walked away from the elaborate charade my family had planned and married by the lake instead, surrounded only by people who truly loved us. The wedding photo on our mantel captures that perfect moment. Robert and I laughing as the weather's beautiful colors danced around us, neither of us looking at the camera. Real joy doesn't pose. The doorbell chimes, interrupting my thoughts. Through the peephole, I see Violet standing alone on our porch, her shoulders hunched against the cold, in a way I've never seen before. No Thomas, no dramatic entrance, just my sister looking smaller somehow. When I open the door, I stand tall in my own doorway. Unlike that day I overheard them plotting in the dining room, I feel no trembling in my hands, no weakness in my knees. I came to apologize. Violet says, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. Really apologize. I study her face, searching for the familiar manipulation. Instead, I find something new: humility. Dad and Mom had to use their retirement savings to pay the venue. She continues when I remain silent. It was a reality check for all of us. I gesture toward the living room. Come in. The others will be here soon. She hesitates. Thomas threatened divorce unless I started therapy. He said he couldn't be married to someone who treats family like stepping stones. For a moment, I see the little girl who once held my hand on the first day of kindergarten, before she learned to see me as competition rather than as a sister. How's that going? I ask, genuinely curious. Hard, she admits, but necessary. The front door opens behind us as Jessica arrives, carrying a homemade pie, followed by Emily and Robert's parents. The warmth of their greetings fills the entryway. Later gathered around our table, Robert raises his glass to chosen family and second chances. The conversation flows easily, untainted by the tension that characterized family gatherings of the past. When Emily's college-aged cousin mentions pressure from her parents to change majors, I share what took me years to learn. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be someone's victim. I tell her, boundaries aren't walls. They're the foundation of healthy relationships. The words feel natural now, not rehearsed. Last month I began volunteering at the community center, mentoring young women struggling with family expectations. The scholarship fund we created from money saved on our wedding helped 2 of them start college this fall. As evening approaches, most guests depart with warm hugs and promises to return soon. Only Violet remains, helping clear dishes with careful movements. You're welcome here as my sister, I tell her quietly by the sink, not as the person who tried to ruin my wedding. She nods, accepting the boundary without argument. Mom started to see it too, how she enabled everything. She asked if she could call you sometime. Later, after Violet leaves, Robert presents a small package wrapped in silver paper. Happy anniversary, he whispers. Inside is a shadow box containing our framed $6,000 venue deposit receipt mounted against burgundy velvet. The inscription reads, "Best investment we ever made in our freedom and future." I trace the glass with my fingertips, smiling at the simple truth of it. Some lessons are expensive but worth every penny.